Britt here. Have you ever met someone who just instantly irritates you? Like, they're not even doing anything outright rude. There's something about them that just makes you feel ugh, or makes your blood boil. Well, here's the uncomfortable truth. The reason might not be them. It might be you, your shadow self. Hear me out here. We're diving into something that's uncomfortable, but life-changing. You know, it's a concept that shows up in psychology, in neuroscience, and even in scripture. One of my mentors says, you spot it, you got it. Your shadow self. Now, what if the people who are actually annoying you the most are really mirrors, showing you the parts of yourself you haven't really healed or accepted yet? So to unpack this, being triggered, the definition means having a strong emotional reaction, usually out of proportion to the actual situation. Whether it's anger or irritation or even disgust. But why does something so small hit us so hard? Psychologists call this projection. Sigmund Freud coined the term, and then Carl Jung developed it further in what he called our shadow self. The part of us that contains all the traits that we either repress or deny. And the Bible also points to this human tendency in Matthew 7:3. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the giant plank in your own eye? So whether psychology or scripture, the message is clear. What we see in others often reflects what's unresolved in ourselves. Again, the idea of you spot it, you got it, is simple. Yet it's very powerful. If someone really gets under your skin, it's worth asking, is that trait something I've buried in myself? Now here's a powerful example. I used to get incredibly annoyed by people who were always seeking validation, and I'd think, why are they so needy? Yet deep down, I craved validation too. I just hid it better. And I judged others harshly because I was uncomfortable admitting I needed it myself. And this is how the subconscious works. We reject traits that we learned that were bad, and then we react strongly when others actually express them freely. Now, turning back to scripture, Romans 2:1 says, you therefore have no excuse, you who pass judgment on someone else. For whatever you pass judgment against, you're actually condemning yourself. So even spiritually, we're called to reflect before we project. And let's explore some common triggering traits and what they might reveal. So, arrogance. Arrogance often reflects suppressed pride. You know, maybe you were taught that confidence is bad as a kid, so you judge it really harshly in others. Neediness. Neediness could reveal your own discomfort with vulnerability or fear of depending on others. Laziness. Maybe you fear being unproductive or not good enough, so you lash out at those other people who don't hustle as hard as you. And then there's busyness, which could mirror your own desire for control. Proverbs 27:19 says, as water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart. You know, what triggers you reveals you. You know, triggers are rarely about the present. They're echoes from our past asking for attention. So let's go deeper into the why. Why does your brain do this? Well, from a psychological standpoint, projection protects your ego. If you were punished for being emotional or proud or assertive or even playful as a kid, you learned to suppress those parts. But they don't disappear. They just go underground. And when someone walks into your life embodying that exact trait, your subconscious sees them as a threat. Neuroscience shows that emotional reactions come from the amygdala, our threat detection system, right? Logic and reflection actually live in the prefrontal cortex, which takes longer to engage. And that's why you react before you reflect. And in the Psalms, we hear, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts." Our triggers are tests and also invitations to know ourselves better. So what happens if you don't deal with this, right? You become trapped in a cycle of blame. You can sabotage relationships. You keep cutting people off, thinking they're the problem, when really they're showing you what you haven't healed yet. I had one friend who always thought that his coworkers were being disrespectful. But after some reflection, he realized he didn't respect himself. He let people walk all over him and then exploded when others did the same. Left unchecked, projection becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Turning to Galatians, we're reminded, "Do not be deceived, God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." So when you sow unawareness, you actually reap dysfunction. But here's the good news. But you've been waiting for some good news here. Your triggers can become tools for transformation in your life. And here's how. I got so excited when I started doing this for myself. Pause when you're triggered instead of reacting. Take a breath. Name the emotion. What are you actually feeling? Is it resentment, shame, jealousy? Ask yourself, what does this remind me of? When have I felt this before? You can even journal it. Write down the trait, your reaction, and then any patterns you see. And also pray or meditate on it. Ask God for spiritual insight. Ask Him what He's trying to show you. He'll be faithful to answer. In James 1, we hear everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Triggers give us the chance to practice exactly that. Dr. Dan Siegel calls this name it to tame it. When you actually name the emotional root, it addresses your prefrontal cortex, which gives you control instead of reactivity. So what triggered me today, I wonder? What does this mean? What does it mean to me? And where have I seen this in myself? And also important, what does Scripture say about my reaction? This is not about shame. It's about integration, becoming whole by facing what we've hidden. So next time you find yourself rolling your eyes or feeling that gut punch of irritation, instead of pointing the finger, pause and ask yourself, what's this really about? Because the people who trigger us are often the people who teach us. And sometimes that's through pain. And sometimes that's through revelation, but always with purpose. And we can wrap with Matthew 5:8, which says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And to purify our hearts, we must be willing to examine them. So if this video gave you insight, let me know in the comments. What's one trait in others that really gets under your skin? For me, it's anger. People that fly off the handle or have a menacing voice. So what do you think that your trait says about you? So don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss any future videos that may help you understand the inner side of your life. And remember, you spot it, you got it. And that's not a weakness. That's your invitation to grow. And if no one told you today, just remember, you are beloved.